Good morning, grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. BlenderHD, BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Friday, December 8th. We'll be taking a look, GPP-wise, DFS strategy for the NFL Week 14 slate. So hit that thumbs up button. Give me the thumbs early in the morning. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Join with me, as most Fridays, John Breslin, Squirrel Patrol, the millionaire winner. We got a slate coming up, 11 games, and we got some low totals. We got some high totals. We got some. There's some teams that we could target on this slate. We got some weather, right? I think there's going to be a lot of bad weather on the East Coast, I guess. But I mean, it's kind of reflected in these totals. So yeah, I always start out, John, with you because you're kind of a straightforward type of tournament player. Like, it's like, oh, the Dolphins are on the slate. They have a big total. I'm just going to play them. Do you view that? Are you just going to just eat the 49ers and just let anyone else run you down?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that the 49ers are like really jumping out off the page in terms of like optimal projections. So that makes me like them more because I don't think people are necessarily going to get there as much as they should. So one thing, I guess we should start off like the December show. I guess it was December last Friday too. Like December NFL DFS, I always think of like a few things like weather. I think of like their week 17 and 18 like preseason games. And then I also think that like Friday content becomes more and more hypothetical as we move through the month of December, right? Because there's a bunch of injuries. And so we don't know who's going to be playing, and that could shake up the slate a lot. Like if we get a couple of backup running backs in there who are low priced, then suddenly Christian McCaffrey becomes a lot more appealing. Whereas like if everybody's in, then McCaffrey is not so easy to get to. But yeah, I don't know that there's a bunch of chalk that like jumps off the page. Like last week, it was like immediately, what are we going to do about Zach Moss and Tyreek Hill? Zach Moss is still kind of a thing. Tyreek Hill is not on the slate. And I think the 49ers are this week's version of the Dolphins, where they're the team that probably jumps off the page to me the most. But I don't see, like, other than Christian McCaffrey, I don't see like ownership projections going crazy with 49ers, which is good.
Well, I mean, it's just the running back news is essentially Zach Charbonnet at 5,400 for the Seahawks. Like, if he doesn't, I mean, I don't even. Who's going to be who's going to be running? Is McIntosh? I mean, who? DJ Dallas? I mean, is it going to be I mean, I'm not even sure. I mean, what are these prices for these guys? I mean, McIntosh 4K. If DJ Dallas, let me hide I don't even know if he's projected even in the projections. Like, these guys are cheap. Yeah, 4,700. I mean, do you think that, especially with it being a Seahawk, like you mentioned that, like if one of these running backs become available and is a decent enough value, right? I don't know if it's going to jump off the page. It makes you be able to get up to McCaffrey, but it's also in this 49ers game. So if you're going to do like the popular type of like Purdy, McCaffrey, Debo, like your run back is going to be the Seattle running back. But I still think that even if Charbonnet's in, I think Charbonnet at 5,400 is going to be decently owned. And I think you could even throw in a $4,100 Jackson Smith and Jigba in as well. Like, I think you're underestimating the field. Like we've had this thing this year, the talking point that ownership projections are off or something, and they ain't off for me because people don't like playing bad games. They like playing good games. So, like, the more and more people are like, well, I got to play 49ers. Like, you'll see, like, I would not be shocked if, like, we have Debo at 3.8% owned, like at 6,800. He ain't gonna be that low. Like, Ayuk ain't gonna be this low at 11% because people are gonna play the 49ers.
Yeah, literally the thing I did right before we started this show is I was filling out the expert survey, and there's a thing like who your top contrarian plays below 10% own the projected ownership on both sites. And I saw like Debo Samuel there. I'm like, oh, I'm putting him first. Like he's not, but I'm like, it's a cheat, right? He's not gonna be less than 10% on there. But yeah, I agree. I think Debo will be highly owned, and this game could get some steam Because I think you're right. I think I think if Charbonnet's in, then he's too low priced, even against a good like 49ers defense, because he catches passes as well. And then if like DJ Dallas is in, like DJ Dallas catches passes too. I don't even know who the other guy is. McIntosh. I don't know. I guess maybe there's some situation that could blow up if Charbonnet's out, Kenneth Walker's out, and McIntosh and DJ Dallas are like splitting carries, then it becomes unappealing. But like if the cheap running back it comes from this game, then you're going to see a bunch of 49ers, including Deebo Samuel at higher than 3% ownership, and Christian McCaffrey, of course, and Brock Purdy is showing up as like one of the best point per dollar quarterbacks. So
Another popular quarterback, not a high total. The Bears have a 30.25 implied total against the Lions, but I'm expecting Justin Fields will be. I think Justin Fields and Brock Purdy will be the two. Like, if you play cash games on DraftKings, that's probably who you're playing. The thing with Justin Fields is like, obviously he has rushing upside, so you could play him without anyone, but people still don't. People like pairing him with someone. So, like we've seen, like DJ Moore, like we have him at 11% owned, Cole Kmet at like 9% owned. I think Justin Fields is going to be higher than 10%. And I don't think people, they're going to be lineups in the Millie Maker and stuff like that with naked Fields. But people will pair Fields with Moore, at least Moore or Kmet. I think Moore will be higher owned. Obviously, you have the natural kind of run back on the other side with the Amon-Ra St. Brown, and it's cheap enough. I mean, DJ Moore 6,500. I don't think that's that appealing of a price. Do you think this game is? Do you think this game is be over owned? Because I mean, what? These are the types of players that you want to play. Like DJ Moore type is someone that could put up 35 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown could put up 35. We're not talking about like possession receivers and sustained drives to accumulate points. Like these could be big plays. The only thing I'm worried about is that Justin Fields is really a high variance quarterback. And I go along with Cheese's Robbie Ray rule from MLB. It's like when you have the high variance situations, I want to go away from ownership. So like if people are scared of the variance, I'll play them. But if people have like they think that Justin Fields is like, oh yeah, this is a safe 20 plus points, I'm more likely to not play the Bears.
He's definitely not safe, but I do like him. I do like Justin Fields as a play. Like I won't look to get under the field on Justin Fields. Like 10% ownership is I'll probably come in a little bit higher than that. I'll probably be a little bit higher than that, but not way over the field. I think he's past 3 games against Detroit, he's gone over 100 yards rushing, and added a passing touchdown to each of those games as well. And I don't think there's necessarily anything like going back to like last year's Detroit or whatever that like Justin Fields just excels versus the Lions. I just like the idea that there's a quarterback that can go for 100 yards, 3 games, rushing and throw a passing touchdown as well. So, and we're seeing this like such lower scoring this year that those rushing yards for quarterbacks and those rushing touchdowns like really make an impact. And I know I talk about it almost every show that I just love rushing quarterbacks, especially in tournaments, just because like if you have a quarterback that can get a 40-yard touchdown run, like that is suddenly a tournament winning quarterback. And it's really difficult for the passing quarterbacks only to catch up to that guy. So I prefer Justin Fields to Brock Purdy this week, especially in tournaments. I don't do a ton of cash games. So like maybe cash games, you just want to put in Brock Purdy and hope that like if you do like a Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey pairing, you're probably capturing the 49ers scoring. And Purdy can throw a touchdown to McCaffrey as well. So like that's a decent tournament lineup. But just in terms of like raw projection, I would like Justin Fields ahead of Brock Purdy.
Well, we do have another rushing quarterback on the slate that actually has a decent implied team total. I mean, in this day and age in NFL, 24 is a high team total, and that's the Ravens. But of course, Lamar Jackson is more expensive than Fields by $900, so he's $7,700. And we've seen that if you played Lamar Jackson this season, the Ravens could score a lot of points, and Lamar still has nothing because Keaton Mitchell is scoring, and they're It's Rashad Bateman's getting end arounds, and like there are ways for Lamar Jackson to fail, but at less ownership, I don't think that his receiving pairings, other than maybe Isaiah Likely, are going to be all that popular. What are your thoughts on? Yeah, I mean, you said like any quarterback that could get a 100-yard rushing bonus, you have to consider. I'm much more likely to play the better team and play the Ravens and do Lamar plus Likely plus one of like Bateman or Flowers. I don't even need a Ram on the other side. I mean, the Rams are kind of expensive. Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua. They don't have that big. They had 16.5 implied point total, and the Ravens have no problem putting up 38 points in a row. I mean, it's not a like this Jackson stack is not a value. So these ownership numbers of like 7%, like the high single digits, I think may stay there because if you ran this through an optimizer, it's not going to pop off the page at all, but the lineups will still be pretty good.
Yeah, from a narrative perspective, I like Fields more than Lamar. It kind of comes down to I don't know, like it's not really hand in the dirt stuff, but like Lamar just got his contract last year. Like, why is he rushing? Like, and the Ravens don't necessarily want him like running into the pile or whatever. With a huge investment in him, whereas like Justin Fields, the Bears are going to be trying to decide whether or not they spend one of their high draft picks on a quarterback or trade down or whatever they want to do. So I kind of like the idea of going with Justin Fields has maybe got more incentive to put up some numbers than Lamar Jackson. Whereas the Ravens, maybe they want to hand the ball off to Gus Edwards more. Having said that, we've seen, I think, a couple games earlier this season where Lamar had multiple rushing touchdowns, so it's not, it's not a hard and fast rule. Like, I'll definitely be playing some Lamar Jackson. I'll probably just be playing a little bit less Lamar Jackson than Justin Fields. And I just kind of like the Justin Fields situation a little bit better.
Last game I want to talk about before we go back and forth on other games that are off the board that we may want to target. I think the best real life game on the slate, and that's the Bills and the Chiefs in the late set. So it has the highest total, 48.5. I think Pacheco will be the highest owned in this game, maybe some Rashee Rice. But Mahomes is 7,900, and he's really not a rushing quarterback. He hasn't really hit ceilings this year, but historically, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is a 404 type of passer. And then we have Josh Allen on the other side who can scramble and score rushing touchdowns himself. I mean, they're expensive quarterbacks, and the Bills are really not positive values. You always have Travis Kelce there you're going to have to pay up at 7,800 at tight end. Like, to stack this game, is this going to more depend on whether or not we get like some value running backs or something like that'll change the popularity of this game? Because without that, I mean, this game could easily score 70 points between both teams. And if that's the case, like, I almost don't even care about what the prices of these players are, because some of these, I mean, it may outscore every other game by 20 points, and you just may need it no matter what.
It's possible. I see that as less likely this year. I don't know. Like, these teams haven't been putting up explosive point totals like they have in years past. One thing with the value running backs, I think Isaiah Pacheco is still questionable. So if we get Clyde Edwards-Helaire instead of Pacheco, that turns the slate on its head.
Well, that would be if we get Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is, I mean, what's his price? Is he even 4,200? Yeah. If Pacheco's out, CEH becomes the 80% owned running back on the slate, right?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if like Pacheco's like a genuine game time decision going into like 4:00, how people handle that. My guess is people would just play a lot of Pacheco and then swap down to Edwards-Helaire if they have to, and then use the money to spend up somewhere else if they can.
Right, because you got the 49ers in the late set, so you always have McCaffrey there to use your salary towards.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to be. I think that'd be tough.
I mean, you have Keenan Allen, you have Devontae Adams, you got Justin Jefferson coming back. I mean, you got stuff there that you could spend your money on.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I guess you could probably spend up, and a lot of people are going to be playing like Purdy, and so yeah, people would figure out a way. Man, the 1 o'clock games are terrible this week.
You're right. I know the
yeah.
1 o'clock games are awful.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't really noticed that dynamic of the slate that there's going to be like late swap is going to be interesting. I don't know if people will be able to use late swap like they necessarily want to, where they see how their lineup is doing and adjust accordingly. It's just because like everybody's lineup is going to be, probably looking tired. Like I guess like the Fields and Lamar Jackson are in the early games. So yeah, so like this game, like it's expensive to stack. It's the same issue it often is with both Chiefs and Bills. It's just really expensive to stack. So if you're stacking up this game, you really are hoping for like 70 points, and like, that's a possibility. But like in my 150 lineup set, I don't want to be necessarily playing game stacks of this game higher than the possibility of it scoring 70 points, because that's where it needs to go at these prices. I guess the other alternative is you just force in pieces from this game that you like, maybe with Mahomes and Kelsey or Josh Allen and Diggs, and then just take a stab at some value. And that's not a terrible like single entry idea, because you'll get some points from this game, and you're just hoping your value hits more than some other people's value might hit. But overall, I still probably like the 49ers Seattle game, like stacking that game and hoping Seattle can keep it closer than I do like stacking up the expensive pieces from this game.
Okay, so now let's talk a little bit more off the board. I got three stacks that are off the board. One is vomit. One is not absurd vomit. One is real vomit, and one is just going to be ignored. So like let's start with you. Like what outside of the games that we just talked about, what's a stack that you're kind of looking at that may go a little bit overlooked?
Let's see. I should.
I mean, I know you're looking at some. I
Yeah.
mean, look at these
Oh,
1 o'clock games and go, which one of these could maybe get there?
so I don't know if it's a vomit stack, but I think Cincinnati is like way underpriced, and as just a factor of them playing on Monday night. And so like Jake Browning looked a lot better than people thought. So that's not necessarily a vomit stack, because I think it'll get some ownership. But I think that's a game that's the game that I would like to stack that's got the lower point total. That because I think you can play a bunch of sides from that. I think like the Zach Moss, like people are gonna be playing a ton of Zach Moss, but play like actually stack the game, like play Browning, Zach Moss, Jamar Chase. I think that'll see some ownership, but I think it's justified because it's pretty value priced and it can exceed its total.
Right, and typically the Colts games, the Colts run a lot of plays. Like I think this may be the game if we look at the blitz game level factors that will have the highest number of plays. And in this game, I know it's not a stack, but Zach Moss at 5,900. I mean, if you looked at the underlying statistics from last week, like the dude could have put up like 32 fantasy points. Uh, I know they priced him up another $1,300, but he's still in our projections the highest value player on the entire slate. I mean, I'm going to play 10 to 12 lineups, and based on having nearly a 20-point median projection, I hope people just get all. I hope people go, oh, we only got 7 points last week. I'm gonna get off the. I'm gonna get off. I'm gonna get off the. Obviously, this matters if there's another value. We get C8. Some of this stuff may change ownership wise, but at the current moment, if none of that happens, like how much Zach Moss are you planning to have in your 150 set on DraftKings? Because my intention is to just basically he's just going to be the guy in every lineup for me.
Yeah, I probably won't go that far, but I'll probably play as much of them. I'll probably play about 45%, which is about what I had last week, and it's about as high as I generally go on running backs. Well, yeah, I'd say it's about as high as I generally go on running backs, because his matchup is much better this week. Like last week, he was against Tennessee, which is a bad matchup. Like the matchup against the Bengals is much better. So even though his price has gone up, like his price should have gone up. One like quick thing that I noticed on Zach Moss this week is I always look at the sports books and see like who's most likely to score a touchdown this week, and the guy with the best touchdown odds is Zach Moss. Like not any of the other players that you would think about. Zach Moss, I think maybe Christian McCaffrey must not be up there. It must not be posted. So let me check that. But yeah, like Zach Moss has one of the better, if not the best, like touchdown odds this week so far that's been posted. So yeah, I like Zach Moss. It's a better matchup. I'll play about as much of him this week as I played last week, despite the higher price tag.
I want to make a case. Here's a vomit stack. I don't think it's the most vomit stack, but it's a vomit stack. I'm going to make the case of playing the vomit stack in the lowest total game on the entire slate. And that's the Browns and the Jaguars. This total is 32.5. And Elijah Moore, I mean, we may not, I mean, dude, Amari Cooper is probably not going to play. You got Elijah Moore 4,500 with like double-digit receptions last week. David Njoku's there. I know he drops a lot of passes, but his target share is probably going to go up. Flacco's not really that bad of a quarterback, and he's only 4,700. This game is probably going to be ugly, but the Jaguars, Christian Kirk's done. Lawrence looks like he probably won't even play. Like, Cleveland defense is one of the best in the league. Sure, they could end up relying a lot on Jerome Ford, but this could be a game where the Jaguars can't move the ball at all, and the Browns just constantly have possession in short fields. Pairing Flacco with Moore and Njoku means that you could play everyone in your lineup. You could play McCaffrey. You could play everyone. Do whatever the hell you want at that point. And if Cleveland could put up 28.4 touchdowns or something with 3 through the air, like, why can't that get there?
Yeah, I'll be playing more of this game than I probably should. With the 17 or 18 implied point total, and it's like Elijah Moore and Njoku, pop up in a bunch of like my optimal lineups when I'm running them. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna have to like manually limit it. It's like I just don't want to play that much of a wide receiver tight end pairing in a 18 implied point total game. But it's true. Like you can put in Joe Flacco, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku, and then you're just getting whatever you want. And then maybe you have like a Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs, or whatever pairing from that second game, or from the late game. I don't know. I think if that's a DraftKings like only play, I don't think I would do that on FanDuel. It's just the pricing on quarterbacks doesn't go down low enough, and prices on wide receivers don't go down low enough. I think Moore is like 4,300, but that's still pretty good. And you've got the old Jets connection there between Flacco and Elijah Moore.
So what's another game that you're looking at?
See, I skip over Carolina, New Orleans. Bryce Young didn't pull it through for me.
Didn't work out for you. A lot of your triple the field. You probably were 12 times the field on Bryce Young last week.
Yeah, I had about 5%. And I think he came in at like 2%. So that's double the field or so. I think he's like 2.5%. One game that's a little bit interesting, and I don't think it's going to see. I think it's going to see less ownership than projected. Is Denver and the Chargers? Like Justin Herbert. I don't know. It just seems like a very Chargers thing that they would like suddenly start looking good now. It's like suddenly turning around, and they can't possibly be as bad as they've looked. So far this year, and I think they're just not going to project well because nothing from this season is like leading us there. But you just have to think that like Justin Herbert is better than he's seemed, and maybe it's just a few bad weeks that are really clouding our judgment on this game. So I think like a Chargers stack, because I think Keenan Allen will see some popularity. But anything else from the Chargers is probably going to be a little bit lower owned than it should be, because I think it'll see a very little ownership.
No, that was one of my 3 of the. It's a 23 implied total. The Broncos defense has been up or down. Like at times they look serviceable, and at times they look like the worst defense in the entire league. And the Chargers shouldn't be as bad as they've been playing. So Herbert plus Allen plus one of like Guyton or Everett, because Keenan Allen's by far the alpha right now. I mean, you don't have to worry about anything with Keenan Allen. That their receiving core is not very good. I I can't. I know someone in chat is like that. TJ, it's like I'd rather take the shot with Eckler. I don't know. When Josh Kelly's getting more targets than Eckler and playing a lot, I 7,600 for a running back of that. I don't know about you, but I don't know how much Eckler I'm gonna have.
No, yeah, not a ton of Eckler. Like he's still, I think, too expensive for there to be like some pretty major question marks. And he's never really done that well when the Chargers have Keenan Allen. Like the thing you want with Austin Eckler is you want like double-digit targets. That doesn't happen when Keenan Allen is on the field. Like so, what happened last year is like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen were out. For like, and I think like even some of the ancillary receivers were out, and then Austin Eckler was suddenly getting like a ton of targets. That hasn't happened this year because Keenan Allen is there. So I think Keenan Allen is to play in terms of the receivers. I think you can add like a Gerald Everett or one of the other receivers like Guyton or Quentin Johnston. They might hit at some point this season. But yeah, I like the idea of like a Justin Herbert stack. I think is going to be underowned.
Okay, you want to know? You know, one of my real off the board.
Yeah,
It's not that vomit because it's not that cheap. It's not that cheap because there's one guy that is fairly expensive. Can I interest you in some Aiden O'Connell at 5,100 paired with Devontae Adams and Michael Mayer? Because I can't possibly like Devontae Adams is 7,500, and yeah, I know the Raiders' offense has not been clicking this year. But you tell me that Devontae Adams is going to be like 5% owned on any slate, and the Vikings. I'm not afraid of the Vikings defense. The Raiders are playing at home. Jefferson's back for the Vikings, so the Vikings offense may actually look better, which means that maybe the Raiders don't rely as much on Josh Jacobs, and maybe they have to throw the ball more. And Mayer's 2,900 and Aiden O'Connell's 5,100. So even though Adams is 7,500, I can still play Christian McCaffrey in this type of line. I get it's affordable enough. Is it something I'm going out of my way to play? No, this is the type of thing where I have 10 to 12 lineups. I may play one of them. It's just that I ran lineups this morning, John, and and doing my process of eliminating lineups that are high owned, low, and I was getting like, you compare to ownership, like Devontae Adams with this projection, like yes, he's lower projected by a point or two from other receivers, but he's also going to be like 3 times less owned. And that just makes him and the cheap quarterback kind of pop and the cheap tight end kind of pop also. I don't know. You're on board for a low-owned Devontae Adams?
yeah, I think you could do that. I think he's actually Devontae Adams is going to see some ownership on FanDuel. I think he's like the 15th most expensive wide receiver on FanDuel. So I don't know that he'll be that low owned, but I think if you're pairing him with Aiden O'Connell, then you've got a pretty lower owned stack. But I think you can definitely play some Devontae Adams. Like if I'm Aiden O'Connell, I'm just going to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. So I think that's a perfectly reasonable play. And I actually think like stacking that game is fine. Like if you do 12 lineups, like put one in that has like some kind of Devontae Adams, Aiden O'Connell or Joshua Dobbs, and then pairing it with like Justin Jefferson or TJ Hawkinson, depending on the site and the pricing and what else you want to do with your lineup. Like maybe like 10% of your lineups should have this game because it's obviously it's only 11 games on the slate, and this game is better than some of them, so it should at least be represented probably 10% of your lineups.
Do you think Justin Jefferson is going to be under-owned? He doesn't project as well as because obviously with Dobbs at quarterback, the Vikings offense is worse than when Cousins was playing. I just get the sense that, I mean, it's hard to judge like for the large field stuff, the casual people. For the smaller field stuff, projections would make it so that Jefferson's going to be lower owned. But I just get the sense that on this slate, people will just be rushing to play McCaffrey and like they're going to pay up in other spots. That like if you took away the fact that Josh Dobbs is the quarterback and he's been serviceable at times, yes, he's been good at times. Like we were playing Justin Jefferson like at 9,600, like Tyreek, most of the time anyway. Like I get the sense that people are going to be like, I'm going to wait to see it before I play him, and then next week he's going to be 9,500 after coming off a 180-yard, 9-reception, 3-touchdown game that was 4% owned.
It's tough because I think he's the most expensive wide receiver on FanDuel, the third most expensive wide receiver on DraftKings, and I just don't have him projected that high. And so he is going to be lower owned. And yeah, like what if he has a better connection with Joshua Dobbs and Kirk Cousins or something like that, right? Like that's the kind of play you can't argue against it. Like if you're going to be over the field on something or differentiate your lineups like by paying up, like Justin Jefferson, I think is a good place to go. It's just tough because you're not getting any savings at all with him coming off the injured list. The game's only got like a 40 something point total. Like it's not like I'm trying to avoid the Raiders defense. But it's just tough. You're not getting any savings at all.
Right. I just my gut from the field, like not who's going to play in what's going to happen in the games. My gut says that the high price wide receivers as a whole, as a group, are going to have the lower ownership as people feel much more comfortable playing Christian McCaffrey for these prices than play a Diggs, and Allen, a Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Mike Evans at 7,700, right? Jamar Chase, Nico Collins at 7,600, right? People may go down here like Pittman, Olave, Ayuk, DJ Moore, like this 6K. I get a sense that a lot of people are going to play these like 6K, low 7K, the 5K guys, and then they'll play McCaffrey. They'll play, if they're going to pay up or anything, or they're paying up at quarterback. So they're playing, an Allen, a Mahomes, a Lamar Jackson, or something like that. I just think as a whole, like I'm not saying to play two of these in your lineup, but even just a one-off Diggs, a one-off Mike Evans, a one-off Nico Collins, like, or one-off Devontae Adams. It just feels like these are all people that if they put up 30 plus points, historically, you would not be shocked at all. And getting that for single-digit ownership, I think is worth a lot more. And then you just hope that McCaffrey doesn't put up 40.
Yeah, it's difficult because like Christian McCaffrey just has not put up a bad game in a while. I think it's been like since week 6 that he was under 20 points. So this feeling that like, oh, it's just I'm going to get like a guaranteed 20 points from Christian McCaffrey has actually worked out the past 2 months. Playing him at whatever price. He's a little bit harder to get to on FanDuel. So yeah, I think the idea of foregoing Christian McCaffrey and playing like a Justin Jefferson or a more expensive wide receiver is, I think it's something you can do on FanDuel, especially because like McCaffrey is so expensive. Yeah, on DraftKings, like McCaffrey should be more expensive than he is on DraftKings. Yeah, I like it. I like the idea. Like this is the time of year where we forget about people, right? Like we're now week 14, so we kind of assume that everything we've seen or what we've seen the last 4, 5, 6 weeks is the way it's always going to be, and that's not always the case. So yeah, I agree. I think paying up for some of these wide receivers that maybe are going to be lower owned is a good tournament play.
Anything else that you see on the slate from a macro standpoint?
I think just we got to wait on these injury situations because what I always think about is like if we have like one running back that's questionable, like Zach Charbonnet might not play. Well, he might play. It seems like we've got a list of them, like Breece Hall, Isaiah Pacheco, Zach Charbonnet. I think there's even somebody I'm forgetting, like that are questionable, like genuinely questionable, and we have to see how it's going to go. And hopefully, we know by Sunday. But that's the kind of thing where you got to be able to adjust. So right now, I think you actually are going to see a lot of Browns, like the Elijah Moore, David Njoku pairings, because we don't know if we have any of these cheap running backs. If we get one of these cheap running backs, then that guy is going to shoot up the ownership rankings. Like Zach Moss might even come a little bit down, and then the Browns are going to come down as well. And we'll see, just depending on who the running back is, that can affect things. Like if it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, then you're going to see a lot more of these like Bills Chiefs stacks than you would have otherwise.
Also, I just the Carr is questionable. If he doesn't play and Winston's in, I will be playing a Winston lineup.
Yeah, you have to. I think it's a rule that if you're playing multiple lineups and Jameis Winston is in there, you got to play. You got to play him.
Right. Right. They're playing at home in the Superdome against the Panthers, and Winston doesn't mind chucking. But of course, I think Olave's ownership starts coming up, and I mean the Saints 21.5 implied total, not like absurd, but yeah, like I just sit there and wait. It's just like dude, I want to play these Saints. Just please, can someone just get rid of Taysom Hill first and then get rid of Derek Carr? And then the Saints actually seem like a team that's worth playing in DFS.
Yeah, actually, and I don't mind the Taysom Hill play either. As long as if Carr is out, then it's possible we see those Taysom Hill second half. That's always my Taysom Hill fantasy, right? Is that you get the second half of passing yards from your tight end position. But yeah, I agree that could affect the Saints as well. Whether we get Winston and if Derek Carr is out, it could affect Alvin Kamara.
TJ pointed out in the chat that we have Jerick McKinnon with a Q tag. I was under the impression that he's not going to play. Do we have an update on that? I think he's officially with the Q tag, so he's in the projections. But from what I've seen, I've been paying somewhat of attention in my NFL Twitter list that I didn't see any update. McKinnon's on track to play type of thing. It feels like he's more on the doubtful side.
Yeah, I'm seeing limited in practice, so we never know what that means. And I think he was actually kind of like a later scratch last week as well.
But obviously, if Pacheco's out, and McKinnon's in, he's there all. It really comes down to it's like if any of these running backs for the Chiefs are out, they don't have who's on their practice squad. Who do they who's Andy Reid going to trust a running back? Truthfully, if one of these running backs is out, maybe it's much more likely that Mahomes is just going to chuck. They're going to pass a lot more.
Right. Then you up your Rashee Rice exposure. Yeah, I agree. We don't know, and there's a few situations like that where it's like Seattle's kind of the same thing. Is it Kenneth Walker? Is it Charbonnet? Is it DJ Dallas? Yeah, we got to see. Let's see how the injury reports shake out.
People want to know now. It's Friday. They want to know. Yeah. They're making their lineups now.
Yeah.
So you got stuff coming out today, right? You got an article. You got is there an MMA slate? You always have tons of stuff. So let people know what content's coming out. Is it free? Is it premium? What's going on?
So yeah, I don't know. I never know whether my stuff. I think my article is premium. Yeah, anything that they showed the first paragraph, but not the rest of it is premium. Because there's a thing that says subscribe. So yeah, got the Scroll Nuts article coming out later today. Solo ship with JM to win. That records this afternoon. Usually gets released Friday nights. Got the NBA content. Got UFC card this weekend. So a lot of content coming out over the next 24 hours.
Okay, well, hit that like button. Hit the link in the description if you want to get a RotoGrinders premium subscription. SimLabs is now behind the paywall, so you can't use that for free now. So that's still part now of your premium subscription, right? And as TJ puts up the thing, don't forget to check out Squirrel's Nuts, right? Are we going to get demonetized for that or something? I don't know, right? But smash that like button, hit the subscribe button. We got NBA today, right? We got some NBA, we got some NHL, we got Grinders Live, we got Crunch Time, we got tons of content. Tournament takes. Podcast is a podcast feed. Go on wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to the RotoGrinders Fantasy Football podcast feed, and TJ will be on Grinders Live. Say that he talks to the thing. He can TJ. So you could just tell people.
I didn't want to have my face on here. I haven't showered yet this morning. That's for after the show.
But you have stuff going on also, right?
Yeah, jump scare on that one when I popped in. I wasn't expecting that. I'm on Grinders Live later today, and then I'll be producing for Crunch Time and stuff too. But no articles from me on Friday, but I'll be back with NBA articles, tournament take article for tomorrow, as well as expert survey, more prize picks, and then I'll have prize picks for NFL all weekend as well.
Right, all the content here at RotoGrinders. So click on everything. Click everything you see on everything on the screen or whatever, and I'll be back on Monday, like I'm always here, right, talking about all the things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.